Om Gam Ganapatya Namaha. Kaliyuga Kalpataru. Anubandha. Glories after Brindavana entry. Chapter 2. Guru Rayaru's Vrindavanas tilted. Although it may seem astonishing, this indeed is a true event that occurred. Yes, once upon a time, Sri Rayaru's Vrindavana tilted slightly for a short period. This extraordinary incident happened around 1735 CE. Hundreds of people witnessed this wondrous event with their own eyes and rejoiced. The great soul who became the cause of this marvelous occurrence was Shri Vadindra Tirtharu Sripadangalavaru. Before Shri Vadindra Tirtharu Sripadangalavaru ascended as the head of the Mahasamsthana, after the era of Shri Guru Rayaru, that is Shri Raghavendra Swamigalu, the following distinguished pontiffs led the Mahasamsthana. Shri Yogendra Tirtharu, 1671 to 1688 CE. Shri Surendra Tirtharu, 1688 to 1692 CE. Shri Sumatindra Tirtharu, 1692 to 1725 CE. Shri Upendra Tirtharu, from 1725 to 1728 CE. These four wise leaders, immensely blessed by having studied under Sri Rayaru himself, ruled the Mahasamsthana for about 58 years successively, as per the command of Sri Guru Rajaru. By their profound knowledge, devotion, renunciation, penance, victorious debates over rival scholars of thoughts, establishment of philosophical doctrines, literary compositions, scriptural discourses, and efforts for universal welfare, they became honored by both learned scholars and emperors alike. They elevated the banner of Sri Vedanta Samrajya, that is Empire of Vedanta, across India and spread their fame across the horizons. By the time the events of this narrative unfolded, Sri Vadindra Tirtharu, the blessed descendant of Guru Rayaru, had already become famous as the head of the Mahasamsthana, that is from 1728 to 1750 CE. At the sacred Mantralaya Kshetra, adjacent to the left side of Sri Rayaru's Vrindavana, there stands a brilliant and beautiful Vrindavana. Thousands of devotees who undertake pilgrimage to Mantralaya are familiar with it. That is the Vrindavana of Sri Vadindra Tirtharu. In the divine work of blessing devotees, Sri Vadindra Tirtharu served as a kind of minister to Sri Rayaru. It is an experienced fact that thousands of devotees in their dreams have seen visions of Rayaru together with Sri Vadindra Tirtharu receiving blessings. Those who protect the community of devotees alongside Rayaru are certainly not ordinary souls. Sri Vadindra Tirtharu is a special recipient of Rayaru's exceptional grace. The love and affection that the Swamijis of Mantralaya have for him is unparalleled. Indeed, is it not natural that a grandfather should harbor unique love and affection for his grandson? Sri Vadindra Tirtharu was a descendant of Sri Rayaru. Rayaru's son was Lakshmi Narayana Acharya, whose only son was Purushottamacharya. The eldest son of Purushottamata Acharya was Srinivasa Acharya, who later known as Sri Vadindra Tirtharu, fulfilled Sri Rayaru's prophecy by becoming the head of the Mahasamsthana from 1728 to 1750 CE. When Diwan Venkatapant had initially constructed a beautiful Vrindavana for Sri Rayaru, it was declared that a deserving individual would emerge later. Rayaru instructed that another Vrindavana, made from a stone sanctified with the touch of Rama's feet, be prepared separately for that future individual. It was foretold in Rayaru's biography, as mentioned in earlier chapter, that the special Vrindavana would be reserved for Sri Vadindra Tirtharu. Thus the Vrindavana that still shines resplendently today at Mantralaya belongs to Sri Vadindra Tirtharu. When Sri Guru Rayaru entered the Vrindavana bodily, Srinivasa Acharya, that is Vadindra Tirtharu, was only about 1.5 years old. Yet Sri Rayaru, having realized the true nature and greatness of his grandson, expressed his immense love, affection, and blessings by dedicating the specially prepared Vrindavana to him. Thus, it becomes evident how truly fortunate Sri Vadindra Tirtharu was. Sri Vadindra Tirtharu, formerly known in his Purvashrama, that is P monastic life, as Srinivasa Acharya, studied all the scriptures, that is Shastras, under his father Sri Purushottama Acharya, and later under his family preceptors Sri Sumatindra Tirtharu and Sri Upendra Tirtharu. He participated actively in many scholarly debates, that is Vyakartha, held in the Srimata, demonstrating his sharp debating skills and brilliance, silencing rival scholars and earning the respect and reverence of all. Srinivasa Acharya received honors from the rulers of Madurai, that is Pandya kings, Tanjavur, and the later kings of Karnataka, at the request of Sambhaya, the chief minister and commander-in-chief under the Pandya king. Srinivasa Acharya critically refuted a treatise written by a later day scholar, which contained fallacious criticism against the philosophy of Sri Madhvacharya. Through his decisive refutation, he established that the Dvaita Bhashya, that is dualistic interpretation, was indeed the one approved by Shri Badri Narayana Deva, that is Vedavyasaru. He composed a scholarly work titled Navadurukti, effectively dismantling the erroneous arguments and serving the cause of Vedantic orthodoxity. Because of Sri Srinivasa Acharya's exceptional scholarship and intellect, the Pandya king and minister Sambhaya honored him with prestigious awards befitting a learned scholar. Recognizing his deep knowledge, extraordinary talent, literary skill, and the special blessings he had received from Sri Guru Rayaru, Sri Upendra Tirtharu, being well aware of Sri Rayaru's intentions, bestowed upon Sri Srinivasa Acharya the ascetic order, that is Paramahamsa Ashrama, giving him the name Sri Vadindra Tirtharu, and anointed him as the ruler of the Dvaita Vedanta empire. After ascending the Pita, that is pontifical seat, Sri Vadindra Tirtharu undertook a victorious pilgrimage, that is Jaitra Yatra, travelling extensively everywhere. Through debates with rival scholars, establishment of doctrines, scriptural discourses, and efforts to uplift disciplines and disciples and devotees, he impressed many Hindu and Muslim kings, chieftains, and Jagirdars, who, moved by his influence, offered him villages, lands, gold, and ornaments, seeking his blessings. Sri Vadindra Tirtharu preserved for the Mata the two villages, Kiratagiri and Mantralaya, which had originally been secured by Sri Rayaru himself. Thus, the credit for eternally safeguarding these two villages, resplendent with the underlying glory of Rayaru, belongs to Sri Vadindra Tirtharu. Sri Vadindra Tirtharu composed many excellent works. The available ones are Tattva Prakashika Tippani, also known as Mimansa Nyayadarpana, Bhugola Khagola Vichara, that is treatise on earth and celestial spheres, Navya Durukti Shiksha, composed during his Purvashrama, Shri Raghavendra Matagata Archagati Krama, that is procedures of worship at the Mata, Tattvadyota Tippani, that is annotations on Tattvadyota, Sri Guru Gunastavanam, and others. Additionally, the Guru enriched the Haridasa Sahitya treasury by composing many divine Kannada hymns, that is Devaranamas. Among all his compositions, the last one, Sri Guru Gunastavana, is the main subject of this narrative. It is this work that led to the revelation of one of Sri Rayaru's greatest miracles. Sri Vadindra Tirtharu harbored immense devotion and reverence for Shri Gurusarvabhauma, that is Shri Guru Raghavendra Swamiguru. To highlight Sri Rayaru's profound personality, greatness, his immortal story, and the supreme value of Rayaru's own works, Vadindra Tirtharu composed this extraordinary work, Sri Guru Gunastavanam. It is a short poem, that is Kavya. In it, Sri Vadindra Tirtharu masterfully and brilliantly describes the scriptures composed by Guru Rayaru, the reasons for composing each work, their greatness and spiritual significance, the immense benefits derived by scholars and common people, especially those engaged in scriptural study and teaching. Having composed such a great and profound work, Sri Vadindra Tirtharu set out to offer it to Sri Rayaru. He journeyed to Mantralaya along with the retinue of the Matha. At that time, hundreds of devotees had gathered at Mantralaya, seeking Sri Rayaru's blessings. Alongside the Guru were hundreds of Pandits and students. The temple premises were bustling with devotees. Sri Vadindra Tirtharu, in the presence of Sri Rayaru's Brindavana, first worshipped Sri Moolaramadeva, offered Hastodaka, that is holy water, to Sri Rayaru, and performed a grand Mahamangalarati. After completing the sacred rites, standing before Sri Rayaru Vrindavana, Sri Vadindra Tirtharu began to recite his newly composed poem Sri Gurugunastavanam in a melodious voice with great devotional fervor. Hundreds of Pandits, students and devotees, drinking the nectar-like Guru Mahima, that is glory, pouring forth from the mouth of Sri Vadindra Tirtharu, rejoiced in bliss. As Sri Vadindra Tirtharu approached the final verse of the poem, beginning with Vyasenutpada Bija, and reached the last line, Adya Sri Raghavendrat Vilasati Falito Madhva Siddhanta Shakhe, that is, today, by the friction of Madhva Siddhanta, Sri Raghavendra Swamiguru shines gloriously. At that very moment, a wondrous miracle occurred. The Vrindavana of Sri Guru Rayaru, listening to and rejoicing over the composition of Sri Gurugunastavana, gently trembled and tilted in approval. Moreover, the various flowers and garlands that had been offered on the Vrindavana fell down like a shower of flowers upon the head of Sri Vadindra Tirtharu. What an extraordinary, marvelous and unparalleled miracle! Those who were gathered there, scholars, commoners, devotees, witnessed the supreme wonder with their own eyes. In unison, they shouted in joy, Rajadiraja Gurusarvabhauma, Govinda, Govinda, victory to Sri Vadindra Tirtharu Guru Raja. Tears of divine bliss streamed down from the eyes of Sri Vadindra Tirtharu. Embracing the Vrindavana of Sri Rayaru in ecstatic devotion, he wept like a child overcome with supreme love. Then, offering full prostrations, that is Sashtanga Namaskara, at Rayaru's Vrindavana, he formally offered the Sri Gurugunastavanam poem to Sri Rayaru and performed a final Mangalarati. Extraordinary, wondrous, unparalleled, cried out all the assembled devotees and scholars in amazement. Scholars, commoners, and devotees, all who had gathered there, witnessed that supremely miraculous event and the glory of Sri Rayaru with their own eyes. Overcome with joy, they together raised a victorious chorus, Rajadiraja Gurusarvabhauma, Govinda, Govinda, victory to Sri Vadindra Guru Raja. From the eyes of Sri Vadindra Tirtharu, a great flood of tears of bliss began to flow. Feeling inexpressible divine joy, realizing that Sri Rayaru had accepted and blessed his composition, Sri Gurugunastavana, by tilting his Vrindavana, Sri Vadindra Tirtharu embraced the Vrindavana with immense love of a child and sobbed uncontrollably. Afterwards, he offered full Sashtanga Pranama, presenting the Gurugunastavana formally to Sri Rayaru and performed a grand Mangalarati. All the scholars, religious leaders, and devotees assembled there rejoiced immensely upon witnessing how Sri Guru Raja's Vrindavana had tilted in approval and delighted at the love and devotion shown by his own descendant, Sri Vadindra Tirtharu. They recognized and celebrated both the greatness of Sri Rayaru's divine glory and the extraordinary fortune and eminence of Sri Vadindra Tirtharu, who had become a blessed recipient of such a supreme grace. Thus, Sri Gurugunastavana, which had occasioned such an extraordinary miracle, earned the recognition of the learned scholars assembled as a supreme and revered literary work. It became celebrated through scriptural recitation and discourses, and its fame spread widely. After approving Sri Appannacharya's Guru Stotra with his divine voice by proclaiming Sakshi Hayastotrahi and displaying his very first miracle after entering the Brindavana bodily, many other miracles of Sri Rayaru gradually came to light. However, among the miracles shown after that, the event where Sri Rayaru accepted Shri Vadindra Tirtharu's Sri Guru Gunastavana by tilting his Brindavana is considered an extraordinary and unparalleled miracle. Later, following Sri Guru Rayaru's command, Sri Vadindra Tirtharu renounced his mortal body right at Mantralaya itself and entered the beautiful Vrindavana that Sri Rayaru had set aside specially for him. There he now shines eternally, adored with a glorious spiritual form, continuing even today to bless and protect devotees. Receiving a place beside Sri Guru Rayaru in the sacred presence of Mantralaya is an immense fortune. It is possible only through the special grace of Sri Rayaru. The very fact that Sri Vadindra Tirtharu Vrindavana stands adjacent to Sri Rayaru is itself sufficient to illustrate his supreme fortune and greatness. In the domain of Sri Rayaru's scriptural compositions, just as Sri Sumatindra Tirtharu served as a minister, and in the sphere of the rise of the Haridasa literary movement, Sri Jagannatha Dasaru served as a minister. Likewise, in the revelation of Vrindavana Mahima, that is the glory of the Vrindavana, Sri Vadindra Tirtharu served as the minister for Sri Guru Rajaru. Even today, devotees testify that in dreams, Sri Rayaru appear along with Sri Vadindra Tirtharu, granting them darshana and fulfilling their heartfelt desires. Thus, it can be proclaimed loudly and proudly that Sri Vadindra Tirtharu's greatness needs no further explanation. Sri Vijayadasaru has celebrated Sri Vadindra Tirtharu as an incarnation of Brahaspati Acharya, that is the Guru of the Devas. In passing, it is worth noting that Sri Yogendra, Surendra, Sumatindaru, and Upendra Tirtharu were all exceptional authors and scholars of rare brilliance. Among them, Sri Sumatindra Tirtharu was particularly distinguished writer. Sri Guru Raghavendra Swamigalu, from whom Sri Sumatindra Tirtharu was deeply dear, composed some works at Udupi specifically for his sake. Just like Guru Rayaru, Sri Sumatindra Tirtharu too composed unparalleled works based on the three foundational texts and became world renowned. Moreover, the literary works of Sri Sumatindra Tirtharu are now priceless treasures in the vast ocean of Dvaita literature. He served as the Guru to Sahu Maharaj, the grandson of Shivaji Maharaj, and was honored by kings and emperors. Though their lives and contributions are unparalleled, they are not elaborated upon here to avoid extending the length of this text. With Sri Rayaru's grace, there is a desire to one day compose a large, dedicated work on Sri Sumatindra Tirtharu's life and glories. May the Gurus bless us to fulfill that wishes. Footnote: see the 12th chapter titled Ashrama Pradhana of the 5th Ullasa of Kaliyuga Kalpataru for more details. Hari Om. Om Shri Krishnarpanamastu.